Alrighty, so this is our review agenda for today. First, we're going to do a fraction folding activity, which is where those pieces of paper that I asked you to grab and those coloring supplies that I asked you to grab are going to come in handy. So if you don't have those, make sure you stop the video and you go grab them, please. You need at least 2 pieces of paper for this activity, and it doesn't matter. The paper can be lined paper, it can be printer paper, it can be the back of a coloring page. As long as you have at least one side that's blank, you're totally fine. And you will also need at least 4 different, actually 3, but if you have more than 3, grab as many as you can. Coloring supplies, whether those are crayons, markers, colored pencils, whatever you have. I will probably be using a combination of markers and highlighters because that's just what I have with me, no big deal. So go ahead and grab those. After you do the fraction folding activity, which is when we're going to be sort of talking about how big and small fractional amounts actually are, we have some guided practice questions for you to answer on the form. And then we're going to talk about some origami. So let's get rocking and rolling. Yesterday, I asked you to vote. So after we do the actual math part of origami, we will be learning quickly, or I will show you a video of how to create an origami dog. Since that's what you guys voted for, this is what this graph is. This is actually pulled directly from your Google form. Apparently about 59% of you, so just over half of you, decided you would like to make a dog. We know that that's the answer because this legend, tells us that orange means people voted for dog, so most of us voted for dog. Then there's actually a tie next for flower and boat, and then apparently very few people want to make a hat. So we're making a dog. All right, so you're folding for fractions activity. You will need those 2 pieces of paper, at least the 4 coloring things, and a smile because it's going to be fun. All right, let's rock and roll. Step 1. You're going to grab one of your pieces of paper. We're going to use the other one later, so you can put that to the side. So grab your first piece of paper, and we're going to fold it in halves. I'll show you how to do that right now. Here's my piece of paper. I'm going to take that top edge, and I'm going to bring it down to meet my bottom edge. I'm going to make sure that the corners line up, and then we're just going to give it a nice crisp fold. If you notice, I always like to hold the bottom. This will be helpful when we get into origami later. And then I move my hand up and then go like this. All right, so we folded it in half like a hamburger. So now, step 2. We're gonna open it back up and we're gonna label 1/2. So open it back up like you would a book, as you can see in my right here. We know that when we split one whole, in this case, one whole piece of paper, we know that when we we know that when we split one whole piece of paper like we did into 2 equal pieces, each piece is called a half. Each piece is called one, it's called 1/2. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take it doesn't really matter what color you're using right now, but you get to use a pencil, you can use a pen like I am. You're gonna come down that middle fold line, so where it folds, I just drew a line. And I want you to label 1/2. I'm gonna pick the one on the left. I recommend you also pick the one on the left. And I want you, as big as you want to, you can write 1/2. And then I also want you to write it in fraction form. So we know 1/2, the denominator tells me there are 2 equal pieces in one whole. This piece is 1 piece, it is 1/2. Then you are going to shade in this whole area. You can pick whatever color you want. I am going to pick my green marker, and I'm going to color. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of color. If you need more coloring time, just pause the video. Not a big deal. I'm just only giving you this amount of time so that we can make sure the video stays nice and short. If you don't want to fully color, maybe you don't want to waste your markers, you can just shade it like this. Alrighty, so I gave you a little bit of extra time since, as you probably noticed, coloring in 1/2 of our piece of paper took quite a bit. It's a lot of space, right? It's 1/2 of the whole piece of paper. Let's see how that compares to the size of 1/4 of our piece of paper. So step 3, we're gonna fold it into fourths. a quick way to fold it into fourths, fold it back into your halves, right? And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the right side and you're gonna fold it over. So basically you're folding your half in half again, which makes sense because if we cut a half, which is what we're doing when we do our fold, when we take 1/2 of a whole and we split that 1/2 into 2 equal pieces, we've made, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, I'll make it full screen so you can really see it. We've made 1, 2, 3, 4, it's upside down, but like go on, pieces in our whole. So now we've taken our whole and we split it into 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces. So we know one of these pieces is a fourth. So what I'm gonna have you do, pay very close attention. The new fold you just created, you can kind of see it right there. You're gonna take that and you're just gonna trace it on the 1/2, on the side that you did not color. So don't do it full across because then you're gonna confuse yourself. Just do it right here. So now, where is 1/4 of our paper? What section could we color to make 1/4 of our paper? In other words, where is one of 4 equal pieces in our half? Or excuse me, in our paper? Yeah, either this piece or this piece. Either one is 1/4 of the whole paper. So now what you're going to do is you are going to label only 1/4. So what you're gonna do, I've even demonstrated in that picture over here, and I'm gonna show you right here. You are going to label 1/4. So first labeled in words. You can still write pretty big. We have quite a bit of area for 1/4, but not as much for our 1/2, which we'll get into. And then we know that when we write 1/4 in fraction form, we put a 4 in the denominator because now there are 1, 2, 3, 4. If I use this same size piece, I would be able to use 1, 2, 3, 4 of them to fill up my piece of paper. And this is one of those 4 pieces, so it is 1/4. Now grab a different color because we are gonna have another 30 seconds. Sorry, I had to let Buffy in there. We're gonna have another 30 seconds to be coloring on. Go. If you want to use another design instead of the slashes, you go for it, my friends. Maybe I might do polka dots. All right, about 4 more seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Like I said, if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video and you keep coloring, or you can always do it later, no big deal. So the first thing that I'm immediately noticing is my 1/4 piece is smaller than my 1/2 piece, which if I'm a smart mathematician, makes sense to me, right? Because 1/2, 2 of those pieces fill up 1 whole. But 1/4, I need 4 of these pieces to fill up 1 whole. So if I need fewer pieces, like in this case, I only need 1/2, 2/2, I only need 2 pieces, it makes sense that those pieces are gonna be bigger because each piece covers more space. Covers more, covers more. Yep, it covers more space. We're gonna fold it into 8s. So basically what you do, you're gonna bring your fourths. We're gonna fold our fourths in half. So fold it into halves. Fold it into fourths again. So you're just following those same lines. And now what you're gonna do, grab this side, fold it to meet the left side. So grab your right side, fold it to meet the left side. So it's kind of tough. So you gotta be really strong and fold that. So again, all we did was we brought our halves back out, brought it to our fourths, and then we took the right side of our fourth and folded it over to meet the left side. So we folded the fourths in actually halves. Kind of cool. Now we're gonna label 1/8. So when you open it back up, you'll notice now we have quite a few folds, right? And if you count, Now these smaller pieces, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these smaller pieces. So that means each of those smaller pieces is 1/8. 1, 1. Yeah, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of those size fill up our whole. So we're going to go ahead and label this 1/8. Eighth is kind of a weird word because you got to write 8 first and then add an H. We know for 1/8, we will put an 8 in the denominator because 8 sizes of these, which then reminds me, Miss Cupp, you got to make your separation for your piece here because this is the size of a piece. If I had not drawn that line and I said this whole piece was 1/8, I would be absolutely incorrect because that whole piece is actually 1/4 because we need 4 pieces of those size to make a whole piece of paper. We need 8 pieces of this size to cover up our whole paper. That's why we call this piece 1/8. So go ahead and grab another color. I'm probably gonna grab, it looks like pink, and I'm gonna give you about 30 seconds to color in this part. Ready, go. Remember, you're only coloring in the 8th. About 5 more seconds. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just making it pretty and fun. Okay. So let's look at these pieces, right? What do you notice about the size of them? Are they all the same size? Say no way. No, they're definitely not. Which piece that we created is the biggest? I want you to put your finger on the biggest piece. Ready, set, go. So which pieces are actually the biggest? Which piece here is the biggest? All right, put your finger on it. Ready, go. Yeah, your finger should be on 1/2 because looking at our piece of paper, when we colored in 1/2, it took longer, right? Like we had to cover up more area. So this piece 1/2 is bigger than 1/4 and 1/8, right? How do mathematicians say that though? We know mathematicians have very specific language that they like to use. How would a mathematician say that 1/2 is the bigger piece? They would say 1/2 is greater than 1/4 and 1/8. They would say 1/2 is greater than, it takes up more space than 1/4 or 1/8, which we know is true. It does take up more space. It takes up more space of our piece of paper. Now, what symbol could we use to say the same thing in math code? My Hadley friends know. Maybe you have to move your arms a certain way. What symbol could we use to say that 1/2 is greater than 1/4 and 1/8? Show me with your arms. Let's see. Yeah, hopefully you're making like an alligator motion, right? We know that we can sometimes like show which one it is. We would do that in class sometimes, right? Yeah, we can use this symbol, the alligator mouth, to show that we can say the same thing we just said in words in code, essentially, right? So this says the same thing. 1/2 is greater than 1/4. 1/2 is greater than 1/8. We know the alligator always wants to eat more. So it's always going to point towards, the open mouth is always going to point towards the direction of what it wants to eat. It wants the 1/2 because 1/2 of a whole, which we know 1/2 of our whole paper, if this was a big chunk of meat, the alligator would much rather eat 1/2 of the chunk of meat than the 1/4 of the chunk of meat or the 1/8 of the chunk of meat, right? Yeah, it would want 1/2 because 1/2 is bigger. All right, switch it up. Which piece is the smallest? Put your finger on it. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, 1/8. 1/8 is the smallest on our 1/8 of a whole piece of paper. It's smaller than 1/4 of a piece of paper or 1/8 of a piece of paper because we need more of these pieces to cover it, right? We need 8. we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each of those pieces, if we need more of them to cover it up, how would a mathematician say that? Would it say 1/8 is the smallest? No, they would probably use something and they would say 1/8 is less than, is 1/8 is less than 1/2 of a paper or 1/4 of a paper. So 1/8 of a whole is less than 1/2 of a whole is less than 1/4 of a whole, as long as the whole is the same thing, right? Yeah, we just got to keep that a reminder. If we're talking about numbers on the same whole, in this case, the same piece of paper, this is absolutely true. How will we use the same, what symbol could we use to say the same thing in math code? All right, move your arms, ready? Go. Yeah, I hope you're making some alligator arms, right? We know in this case, we would read this sign as less than. When we read it from this side to this side, we read it as less than. So 1/8 is less than 1/2 of the same whole. So in this case, when we say 1/8 of this piece of paper is less than, is smaller than 1/2 of the piece of paper. 1/8 of a piece of paper is smaller than, is less than 1/4 of that piece of paper, right? We have to make the pieces are smaller. All right, let's spice it up. We've been doing 1/2, 1/4, and 1/8, but I know we definitely know more fractions than that. So let's look at some other ones. Grab your other piece of paper. Mine's right here. Move this one maybe off to the side for a second. Let's rock and roll. First, we're going to do thirds. I want you to pay attention to me first to try to help you get your thirds the same size, right? The whole point is that each piece has to be the same size, so we can't be making a mistake here. So what I'm going to do to make my thirds is I'm going to take my right side and I'm going to lightly bring it over. Then I'm going to grab my left side and I'm going to try to put it over my right side so that they take up the same amount of space. So you'll notice right now, the edge right here isn't quite covering up the same amount of space. So I'm going to move it over. And then as I slowly push it down, I'm just making sure that these edges line up. So that's what I did. One more time. I took this side. Sorry, I took the right side. I brought it past halfway. And then I grabbed my left side, folded it on top. I moved it to make sure it covered up the same amount of space as the underfold. Lined up my edges, and then just folded it down. Make sure that you fold down the left side too. And then we open it up. We should have 1, 2, 3 pretty equal looking pieces, right? We know if there are 3 equal pieces that make up one whole, each of these is 1, 1, 1/3. You got to say third there. So let's label the one to the left 1/3. Now 1/3 of my piece of paper takes up a pretty big amount of the piece of paper, so I can write that in pretty big letters. Just make it nice and focused for you. There we go. I know if I write this like a fraction form, under my fraction bar, what goes in my denominator? How many pieces make up one whole? 3. So this piece is only 1 piece, but the pieces are sized such that 3 of them would make up one whole. So then what I want you to do is you're only going to draw in the line, the fold right here, to show your 1/3. Sorry, I really don't know why it's being so silly. And then I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to color in this, just the 1/3. I recommend using colors other than the ones you used for your halves, fourths, and eighths. But if you only have 3 colors, no big deal. You can do those. I'm probably going to use blue. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to color it in. Ready, steady, go. Remember, you're probably going to have to color fast because there's a lot of area to cover in this 30 seconds. 1/3 of our piece of paper is pretty big. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, it's time to spice it up again. We already labeled it. Now we're gonna fold it in sixths. The way we're gonna fold it in sixths is the following. Pay attention to me first. What you're gonna do is, I know that other side said hamburger, but it was wrong. You're gonna fold it like a hot dog. So you're gonna bring your bottom to meet the top. Sometimes the other folds might get in the way, just pat them down, no big deal. So bring your bottom to meet the top. Go like that. When you open it back up, you will see that you have now made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces in your hole. Sorry, my picture seems to be preventing you from seeing that 6th piece. I'll make it smaller. But yeah, so we have 6 pieces on our hole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want you to pick this piece. How much is this piece of our hole? Right, it's 1/6. Because it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these size pieces to cover our whole piece of paper. So this one piece is 1/6. To show that it is 1/6, what you're going to do, pay close attention. You're going to fill in this line, but you're going to stop halfway. So you're going to stop once you meet that halfway curve, or that halfway fold, and you're going to come back across, because you just want to outline the 1/6. You just want to outline what the amount of space that 1/6 of our piece of paper looks like. Then you're going to write the fraction. We know if it's 1/6, that tells me I have 1 piece. I need 6 pieces to make 1 whole. All right, about 30 seconds to go ahead and color this guy in. Ready, go. About 10 seconds. And that is time. I know that was a quick 30 seconds, but we got to be rocking and rolling. I don't want to make this video too long for you. All right. Now it is time. Now we're going to add ninths. So this is just a preview of what your paper is going to look like after, because I want you to watch me first. So watch what I'm doing over here in this panel first to make sure that we do our ninths correctly. Alrighty, so what you're going to do is you're going to fold it back into your thirds. So go ahead, fold it back into your thirds. So it looks like this. It looks like a little brochure if you forgot a brochure. And then what you're going to do, put it sideways like this. And you're going to do the same thing we did to make the thirds initially, but just using this amount. So you're going to take this right side. You're going to fold it a little bit past 1/2. Like I said, you might kind of have to stick your fingers in there. Then you're going to take the left side, right here, and you're going to fold it over top that right side, making sure that it covers up the same amount of space. So see that at first mine went way too far, like this. It was actually going past this piece, if you see. This was too much, so I'm moving it back over so they take up the same amount of space. And then I'm going to press down like this. So I'm going to press down. That way when I open it up, I know we got a lot of folds in here, my friends, but that way when I open it up, I have ninths. You'll see that this middle one is split because we folded it in half for 6. Ignore it for right now. So if I look at these pieces, I see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those size pieces. So I want you to do, follow this top mark here, follow this top line. Just trace it across your page. And you're going to label this 1/9. So these are ninths because it would take 9 pieces of this size to cover up our whole paper. So it's also labeled as a fraction. This is 1 piece. It would take 9 of those size. About 30 seconds to color in this guy. I found a colored pencil, so I'm just going to quickly do this. Colored pencils or crayons are nice because you can quickly do that. time. All right. So we folded them into 9s. Which piece here is the biggest? Which piece on our whole is the biggest? Yeah, 1/3 is the biggest, right? We know a mathematician, instead of saying 1/3 is the biggest, they would say 1/3 is greater than 1/6 and 1/9. They would write that in math code by using the alligator symbols and saying 1/3 is greater than 1/6. We read that sign as greater than because it is eating the bigger amount on the left. But which piece is the smallest? Yeah, 1/9. That's not a tricky question. It's the smallest piece. It's the least. It was the quickest to color in, right? Because we didn't have to color in that much space. A mathematician wouldn't say 1/9 is the smallest, though, when he was comparing the size of the fractions. She would say 1/9 is less than 1/6 and 1/3. 1/9 is less space, takes up less amount than 1/3 and 1/6. In mathematician code, they would write it like this. 1/9 is less than 1/3, 1/9 is less than 1/6. So go ahead and grab both of yours, because what we're about to do is we're about to use these to help answer some inequalities or some statements, because some of us were getting really tricked on the quiz when it came to fraction sizes. We were saying that like something was 1/2 or 1/3 when the amount on that number line was definitely smaller or definitely bigger than that actually amount. So again, we're practicing comparing the sizes of fractions so we can get a better idea of how big or how small a fractional amount of a whole actually is. So grab both of them and let's answer these questions. So let's talk about this first one. What is greater, 1/2 or 1/3? So what I want you to do is, using your resource, look at the size of 1/2 and look at the size of 1/3. So I'm going to hold it like this. Which one's bigger? Which one takes up more space? Which fractional amount of a whole is greater? Put your finger on it. 3, 2, and 1. Yeah, 1/2 is greater than 1/3. I know because if I fold it back, like if I take this and I fold it back into thirds, I can fit 1/3 in 1/2. 1/3 of a piece of paper is less space than 1/2 of a piece of paper. So I know 1/2 is greater than 1/3, or in this case, 1/2 greater than symbol 1/3. 1/2 is greater than 1/3. So which is least, 1/8 or 1/9? Using your resources, my recommendation would be position your 1/8 like this on your desk, and then line up this line with this line on 1/9. Tell me which one is least, which one is smaller, 1/9 or 1/8? Yeah, if you're pointing to 1/9, you're absolutely correct. Kiss your brain. 1/9 is less than 1/8. So we would say 1/9 is less than 1/8, and our symbol would be eating the 1/8 because the 1/8 is more, it takes up more space. All right, last one. Which is greater, 1/6 or 1/4? Which is greater, 1/6 or 1/4? So same thing, use your resources, compare the sizes, which is greater. Finger on the greater fraction, finger on the bigger fraction in 3, 2, and 1. Which one is greater? Yeah, 1/4. 1/4 of a piece of paper is greater than 1/6 of a piece of paper. These two pieces of paper are the same size, even though they might be two different wholes, right? They're the same size, they take up the same amount of space. So 1/6 of a piece of paper is smaller than 1/4 of a piece of paper. We need 6 of these pieces to cover up a whole. We only need 4 of these. So because we need fewer pieces of fourths, we know each of those pieces must be bigger. So 1/4 is greater than 1/6, which we would write in math code like this. All right, let's transfer these answers over to our form, and then we have one more question before we get into our fun origami surprise. All right, so let's look at the questions in our form. We should be able to really easily answer all of these based on the work that we just did. So what does a mathematician mean when they say a number is greater than something else? Select 2 answers. I'm gonna give you about 15 seconds. What means the same thing as greater than? Less than, bigger than, smaller than, more than? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, you should have clicked bigger than or more than. These are actually the opposite of greater than, so I would probably mark this as O if I was in ELA. But yes, the 2 synonyms or the 2 expressions mean the same thing as greater than or bigger than and more than, because something that is greater than something else, it has more of it. How would a mathematician read the statements below? 100 is greater than 12. That's how I would read that. So now I'm going to look for an answer choice that matches that. 12 is greater than 100. It's not what I said. I also just know that's not true. 100 is greater than 12. That is what I said when I read that statement, and I know it is true. 100, the number 100, if I have 100 things, I have more things than if I had 12 things. 100 is less than 12. It's not what I said. Also not true. I would much rather have 100 cupcakes than 12 cupcakes, because 100 cupcakes is more. So we know our answer in this case is that middle one. How would a mathematician read the statement below? 1/2 is less than, because I know it's pointing the other way, 1. 1/2 of a whole is less than 1 whole. Yep, that answer choice matches. The next one, 1/2 is greater than 1 whole. First of all, not what I said. Second of all, not true, right? 1/2 of a whole. This piece is not the same thing as this whole piece of paper. So I know that's not true. And 1/2 is equal to 1 whole. That's straight up not true. We just proved it with our pieces of paper. So this is our correct answer here. All right, the next 3 were the ones we just did. So go ahead, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to mark those in, which is greater, 1/2 or 1/3, which is least, 1/8 or 1/9, which is greater, 1/6 or 1/4. Remember, use these. You can fold them in so you can even put them inside, like proving that 1/2 is greater than 1/3. Proving that 1/9 is less than 1/8. Making sure I picked the right one. Yep. Proving that 1/4 is greater than 1/6. I can fit 1/6 if I fold this into fourths. 1/4 would cover up the amount of space on 1/6, so 1/4 is greater. All right, this is how we can use these resources to answer a question like this. Put a check next to the statements that are true, aka when I read them, they are true. This first one, 1/2 is greater than 1/4. Well, if I look at my resource, right, 1/2 is greater than 1/4. It takes up more space. So I know that this is true. I'm going to put a check next to it. 1/4 is greater than 1/3. I want you to think, look at your resources. Which one's bigger? 1/4 or 1/3? And I'm not asking which one is taller, which one is wider. I'm asking which one takes up more space of our piece of paper. Is 1/4 greater than 1/3? No. 1/3 of my piece of paper, I know it's skinnier than 1/4, but look, this tiny overlap area easily fits in here, and there's gonna be some left over, right? I know that 1/3 is greater than 1/4 because this piece is bigger, and because when I open it up, I know I only need 3/3 to cover up to cover up a whole piece of paper. I only need 3 of these pieces. I need 4/4. I need 4 of these pieces of paper to cover up a whole piece of paper. I need 4 of this size. Because I need more pieces, I know that the amount of space in here is less. Not putting a check mark next to it. All right, is it true that 1/6 is less than 1/3? Is it true that 1/6 takes up less space than 1/3? 2 thumbs on your desk, ready, show me go. Yeah, 1/6 takes up less space than 1/3. We can see it right here on our model. So this is true. Is it true that 1/4 is less than 1/3? Didn't we just talk about that? Yes, it is true that 1/4 is less than 1/3 because I need 4 of these pieces. I need 4 of these pieces to cover up a piece of paper, whereas I only need 3 of these pieces to cover up a piece of paper. So I need 3/3 to cover up one hole. I need 4/4 to cover up one hole. Because I need more of these, I know that they're smaller. Each one of these pieces is smaller, is less than 1/3. And then finally, is it true that 1/8 is greater than 1/9? We know this is true because we just answered the fact that 1/9 is less than 1/8 right up here. So we know that 1/8 is less than 1/9. We can also double check by just opening it up to where my 1/8 is, or I can even just fold it to where my 1/8 is so you can see it. Comparing it to my 1/9. 1/8 is greater than 1/9. It completely covers up the 9th and has some left over. So they're almost the same size, but 1/8 is just a little bit bigger. Alrighty, let's get into our word of the day. I promise you we will learn a little bit of origami. So the first thing you're actually going to do for your independent practice is there's going to be a video to teach you how to make an origami dog. It's not going to be me because I tried, and let me tell you, my skills at making an origami dog were not that good. To make the origami dog, though, you will need a square piece of paper. So actually, if you have a sticky note, that would be like the perfect size. If you have sticky notes in your home, go grab a sticky note. If you have a piece of paper though, like this, that's a rectangle, you can make a rectangle into a square. And this is why I told you to grab some scissors if you have them. The way to make a rectangle into a square is, show you. Put your piece of paper like this. Take this corner, take your top right corner, bring it down your paper, bring it down to touch the bottom corner. See how there's a little bit of overlap? What I want you to do is make sure that this side, I'll move my video so you can see. If you'll notice, I'm moving it so that this edge right here is going to be in line with the bottom edge. And it'll fold through my corner. So again, to make a rectangle into a square, what you're going to do is you're going to go like this, take this corner over here, fold it down so that it meets the edge of your paper. Go ahead and sometimes if you make a mistake, not a big deal. You might have to like readjust it a little bit like I just did. But your fold should go right through this corner right here. Then you're just going to cut this flap off. So I would take my scissors and I would cut right here. You can even draw a line. If you cut along that line, you will have a square piece of paper in order to make your origami dog, I promise. Alrighty. Super proud of our hard work. I hope these resources came in handy. We are also going to be using these resources throughout our lessons next week. So please make sure that you have them and you don't get rid of them because they'll be super useful. All right, my friends, again, this is how to take a rectangle into a square. Fold it along the bottom. Fold. Cut this off. You'll have a piece of square. And you'll be able to make your origami dog. Enjoy.